The EPO Server Health page provides useful details about your EPO server and database. The health timeline shows regularly scheduled status updates and includes the following information: server details, health check timeline, health check indicator, and user activities. By default, the EPO health checks remain stored for the last 30 days and display with the latest on the top. Scheduled EPO health checks run periodically as per the schedule selected for the health check scheduler task in the EPO server tasks, as follows. Click the menu applet, scroll down and click Go to Server Tasks under Automation. Type in Health in the quick find, and here you can see the default running of the task for the health check scheduler. Back on the server health check page here, now you see we have a list of identified tasks or checks that are run here based upon the default health check task, which is set to run as we mentioned a minute ago. As we looked at, we saw the timing that it was set to run for. Now, what we're only showing currently are warnings and actual ones that have issues or errors in here. So if we want to actually see the whole list of the health checks that were run, we can click the little button here, and now you can see all the greens are good. Of course, the yellows are warnings, and then reds are fails, so that we have in our list here. Now, if you wanted to kind of drill into each one of these and kind of look at them, you could just click on them, and then it opens up the health check details in that section for whatever that item is that you just checked on. Now, like if the health check details is open and you kind of mouse over or scroll over one of these items, you can see over on the right these entries open up individually as you go through the process here. So if there's one in particular that you want to really kind of focus on and look at, like let's just say the EPO database size check entry that you have here, you can kind of get the details on the database size, and then you'll see kind of where the error message is actually showing at here. And then you'll even have remediation information, which is a link to a KB article typically here provided that you can click on to give you some additional feedback and information, remediation type details that you can do to try and correct that type of issue that you have there. Now, something else that you can do, you're going to see here on the health check details a global view as well, 11 successful, 3 warnings, and this is for this particular task that's run here, this particular time period. You can see I'm running every hour from a time perspective over here. Now, if you want to, let's say for instance, run one of these individual checks on a manual basis. So let's just say we're going to do the database size check here. If we go out here, and this could be, let's say, scenario if you were to correct the problem or you think that you've corrected the problem, you can go out and click manual health checks up here in the corner. And from that, let's say if we were going to do the database health check, you can, if you want to run all of the database health checks, you can just simply click on the button here, and that will, if we open this up, basically runs everything that's in here from all health check standpoint. Okay, since you have multiple ones that are listed. If you want to do an individual one, let's say you didn't want to run all of them, you just wanted to look at the database check. In this case, it was database size check, right? So if we just want to run that one again, we thought we corrected it, you select that entry here, and then you say run health checks. And when you click run health checks, it goes through the process of running, just in this particular instance, that one health check again. And now you can see that it's put an entry up here with the timestamp that we just ran it off of, okay? And then it still shows that it's failing. It still shows a red entry here. So we still have an issue here that we need to go kind of take a look at and figure out what we want to do and how we correct that. Now again, just to show you from a global perspective, if we were to run the manual health check, and let's say again we wanted to run everything in here, all health checks for this particular grouping, the database health checks itself, then we can just select it like that and say run all health check or run health checks, same thing. In which case, once they're completed, you can see it pops them up here again, and again it's for the timestamp that we run it off of, so you can see which ones are kind of one-offs versus the ones that are actually on the regular schedule run, which is everything typically on your running of your task, of your health check task. But if you go through again, you've got the breakdown of, in this case, just the database specific items if you wanted to kind of focus on those and try and identify how you go about correcting those. Now to touch base off on the details as well, again we talked about the shows the result summaries of the items here for the health check details. You can go through and say I only want to see the failed and warnings scenario here, and in which case it shows you just directly what's the failed and warnings entry out of this here. And again, this graphical view is really specific to the pairing of the grouping of health checks that you actually ran here, these particular individual task items. So that's where this is going to come into play, where you see that health check details and you drill into it again and you've got that and you say all results versus failed or warnings. That's where you can kind of just show specifically these three items here that had failed and warnings. Now if we click, like for this particular batch that we ran here, if we click on the view and audit log, now you can see another pane opens up here, and of course here's your health check details again with the successful warnings and all that. You can get a high level view of the audit log, and you can see here's the database size check entry that we ran. It was triggered by the user. In this case, like I said, it was triggered by me, so it was a manually triggered task, and you can see that it showed that the task itself succeeded as far as running, so that it would provide the information there. But again, out of that task we actually had a couple of checks that had a couple of warnings and one failure that we needed to kind of again go dig into and try and figure out what the issues were for that particular item. Now, the last thing to tie off on this is on the health check audit log entry here, is that you're only going to see the top 100 items that are listed here. So keep that in mind when you look at the list here, is that you're going to see the top 100 items, and again it's going to be from the most recent to earlier in the list. Now one last thing to show here, if we go back, let's just minimize this window. We go back to the EPO server details here, you can see this particular entry for the EPO server version running here on this particular server name. You can click on the highlighted links here. In this case, update was installed. You can see what the update actually installed. In this case, it actually shows you all of the particular bugs and such that were added into this particular update and then corrected subsequently by this update. And you can export that information directly into an Excel file by clicking the export to Excel entry, and in which case it triggers that all of this list information, if you will, for that update into a Excel file, so that you can then have that for any kind of record purposes.